It's so good to see you all.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I can go ahead and start with the introduction information. So my name is Jennifer Brannick, and I am a member of the IFLA Local History and Genealogy section. Just a couple of housekeeping tips that if you have any questions, the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A button. Please just enter those there, and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Also, we will have a recording of this presentation available on our YouTube page later, and I'll make sure to send that link out to everyone so that you all have a copy of that, and you can feel free to distribute it as needed. But if you have any questions, please feel free to chat and let us know, and I'll be happy to help and enter your questions into the Q&A. But now I'd like to Dragan Milosevic, who is going to moderate and lead the session. Dragan?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening from Belgrade. It depends where you are living on this planet. Today we jointly together organize this webinar with some significant topic. All of this is organized through our IFLA IFLA section, Local History and Genealogy. I am, as well as Jennifer, in the standing committee. And how it fits from my corner of looking, it fits this session, this webinar fits excellent, because genealogy, I mean, completely 100% fits, and local history as well, because today we will speak about origin and past of the Southeast and especially Southeast Europe region, historically known as Old Herzegovina, today present states, mainly Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro. In recent past, it was Yugoslavia, two of them, Kingdom of Yugoslavia and Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. In present time, it's divided between several countries, but the Old Herzegovina is very significant region. And today we will have three speakers which will cover these topic. The first one will be Branko Todorovic, Secretary of Serbian Association Poreklo. The second one will be Mr. Dragan Obrenovic, who is inside the very huge project of Serbian DNA in Old Herzegovina region. The third one will be our colleague from Romania, from city of Bucharest, Cristina Roy. She is from the Library of Academy of Science of Romania. And my role today is really side role, but I will explain how it came that I will have also a small presentation of the end of this webinar. Once more, thank you all for being with us today, and I think we can start from Mr. Branko Todorovic, Society of Serbian Genealogists Poreklo. Poreklo means heritage, and he will, in his presentation, explain to us these 10 years of their existence, what they done, and what probably are their plans. Branko, thank you so much to being with us. I really would like to hear what you prepared.
Yeah, Branko, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. Thank you, Dragan and Jennifer, for your introduction. Please give me a second to start the presentation. Do you see it full screen?
Yes, looks great.
Thank you very much. So Today in this webinar, I will present you the work of the Society of Serbian Genealogists Poreklo. This society is formed in 2012 in Belgrade. It counts more than 500 members from Serbia, region, and the world. The work of the Poreklo is organized through the committees. The Society of Serbian Genealogists Poreklo was initiator of several projects of national significance. Serbian DNA project, Nevgen Predictor Software, Platform for Heraldic Research Grbovnik, Catalog of Genealogical Archival Materials. Poreklo also has very rich collection of books and magazines, more than 12,000 titles from the fields of ethnology, history, linguistics, heraldry. This collection is planned to be a part of future Poreklo's library. As it's mentioned, Poreklo works through the committees. Currently, those are the Serbian DNA Project, Committee for Heraldry, Committee for Archivistics, Committee for Digitization. Poreklo also has committees for history and archaeology, which are less active. The important part of their work is cooperation with the members who live all around the world and have precious experience from the different fields which contributes the work of each committee. Also, it's of great value the support that Poreklo has from the highest significant institutions in Serbia, Ethnographical Institute of Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts, and Faculty of Biology of University of Belgrade. Serbian DNA project is the most important Poreklo's project. It was started in 2012, in the same year as the society was formed. It's based on special software platform developed according to the all needs of researchers like these research requires. The researchers of Serbian DNA project are based on Y-DNA tests. Currently, the project counts more than 8,000 results, mostly of ethnic Serbs. For the creating of the base of Serbian DNA project, they were organized several large-scale researches. The first one was realized with Dr. Ivica Todorovic from the Ethnographical Institute in 2014, when there was tested 1,028 individuals from Serbia and other Serbian ethnic areas. Research of the same kind was repeated 2 years later on a smaller sample of 200 individuals. After these two, Poreklo started several researches in historical regions where were the most important Serbian migration bases in the past. Those are Old Herzegovina on the sample of plus 500 tested individuals, Kosovo and Metohija on the sample of plus 400 tested individuals, Old Raška and Old Vlah on the sample of 175 tested individuals, Pčinja and Macedonia on the sample of plus 200 tested individuals. Beside these major genealogical projects, it is important to mention Poreklo's mini genealogical projects led usually only by one of the Poreklo's members. Those are currently the Pivljani and Banjani project, started in 2020, Velika Krajina project started in 2021, Semberija and Baranja project started in this year, and archaeogenetic research in Poštenje, one church in modern Montenegro, started also in this year. Same kind of research like the archaeogenetic research in the Poštenje, Poreklo made in 2018 during the excavation on the Cernica locality near Gacko in Old Herzegovina. The results of this research were published in the study about Old Herzegovina research in 2021. A very important product of Serbian DNA project is Nevgen, predictor of Y-DNA haplogroups, currently the leading software of that kind in the world, seated in the dozens of scientific works all around the world. Here we see the map of Serbian DNA projects, showing us the geographical schedule of the last 500 tested individuals within the Serbian DNA project. This is the first capital result of the work of Serbian DNA project, the publishing of the study genetical origins of the Serbs from Old Herzegovina. The numbers testified how large the project was. More about this research you will be able to hear about in our next presentation from Dragan Obrenovic. Earlier, we have mentioned archaeogenetic research in Cernica near Gacko. This research was realized in 2018 on the initiative of the Committee of Archaeology and in cooperation with the Museum of Herzegovina from Trebinje and Faculty of Biology from Belgrade. In this research, there were excavated skeletons from the 15th century. The Y-DNA analysis from old bones showed connections to modern Serbian individuals from that region. The results of this research are published in the study Genetical Origins of Serbs from Old Herzegovina. Here we see the front page of Nevgen. As we mentioned, Nevgen is software that predicts Y-DNA haplogroups. It was constructed in 2014, and from 2015 it is available online. Today, it's leading software of its kind in the world, and it's seated in the dozens of works all around the world. It's upgraded every several months. Heraldry is another sector of interest of Poreklo's members. In 2017, Poreklo established a committee for heraldry. The main goals of committee are collection, processing, and systematization of heraldic sources. In that purpose, the Committee for Heraldry started Project Grbovnik, imagined as interactive e-base of related heraldic sources. The most of the work was done on the fields of so-called Illyrian heraldry and medieval Serbian heraldry, but also in the heraldry of Serbian nobility from Hungary, Venice, Austria, Russia, and France. Collecting the mentioned heraldic sources, Committee for Heraldry achieved cooperation with dozens of libraries and archives in Europe, like those in Vienna, Bologna, London, Dubrovnik, Modena, Innsbruck, Napoli. Here we see examples of two coats of arms from Belgrade Armorial II, manuscript from the beginning of 17th century. It is one of the 19 known and available handwritten copies of the Armorial of Petar Mučević made on the end of the 16th century, now lost, like about 20 more copies of it. This series of Armorial is known in science as Illyrian heraldry. Committee for Heraldry collected digital copies for 17 of 19 available copies of Illyrian Armorial. Like the copies of the Armorial, for the research of Illyrian heraldry of importance are so-called nobility lists, which are also related to the Illyrian armorial. Committee for Heraldry collected digital copies for 13 of 14 available copies of these lists. Here we see the example how the surname of one family is written in each of the armorials. And here we see the example how the same surname was written in each of the nobility lists. Comparing these variations on inscriptions together with the variations on the content of the semi-coat of arms, on the example of more than 140 coat of arms that are part of Illyrian heraldry, we can brought to discoveries like finding lost armorials or even new one earlier totally known. Thanks to this way of research, we have found 3 new armorials and 1 new list of nobility. Serbian medieval heraldry is another aspect of interest of Committee for Heraldry. The committee is in the process of creating catalog of Serbian medieval heraldic sources. Here we see 3 ideal reconstructions of heraldic motifs on medieval rings and 3 ideal reconstructions of coat of arms from medieval stones from the Herzegovina and Bosnia. These reconstructions were made on the sources from public and private collections. Yes, on private collections. Another very active committee in Poreklo is the Committee for Archivistics. The main goal of this committee is to create a catalog of genealogical archival sources in Serbia and abroad. Creating such database parallelly includes mapping of Serbian Orthodox parishes and creating interactive map for easier researching of archival sources. This very important work is also followed with mapping of churches, monasteries, active and abounded cemeteries, which all can be of importance for researching ancestry. Here we see an example of a page from the catalog showing us matricular registers from the former eparchy of Timisoara and Velika Kikinda. Beside matricular registers, the catalog contains also different types of censuses, personal cards of citizens, states and church officials, victims of wars. Here we see an example of mapped parishes of eparchy of Timisoara and Velika Kikinda according to its status in 1924. We use this year because it is the year of issuing the most complete schematism of Serbian Orthodox Church. Also, that was a time that when the Serbian Orthodox Church had the largest jurisdiction in its history. Here we can see a part of one topographic map from the 1917, showing Belgrade with its neighbor settlements and with precisely marked churches. Combining maps like this from different historical periods, it was possible to make ubications of every church, monastery, or cemetery. Committee for Archivistics gathers members with great experience working in Serbian and foreign archives. He'll mention just some of them: Archive of Serbia, Military Archive in Belgrade, Archive of Vojvodina in Novi Sad, Archive of Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts in region Croatian State Archives, State Archive in Dubrovnik, Macedonian National Archives, State Archive in Timisoara, Austrian State Archive. Creating interactive database of genealogical resources would be much harder without their archivistic knowledge and experience in researching genealogy resources. All above mentioned committees are supported by the work of Committee for Digitization. The main project of this committee is the Digital Library Poreklo. It counts more than 6,600 books and magazines. On average, it increases for 1,000 titles every year. The committee digitizes about 170,000 pages of literature every year. The most important collections in Digital Library Poreklo are those of municipalities and origins of population and chronicles of the villages, both editions issued by Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts. So this is the preview of this collection. Also valuable part of Digital Library Poreklo is Serbian library in English, created in cooperation with our members aboard. Currently, this collection counts more than 150 selected Serbian books in English, including rare Serbian immigrant issues. On the end, we can conclude that associations like Poreklo provide opportunities for people with the same interest to connect and collaborate on the same goal, research of old and new topics throughout new scientific disciplines and new knowledge. Research in areas insufficiently covered by scientific community, create new values of public and national interest. That would be it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Branko, thank you so much. Of course, I have to take a look on a clock. The clock is in front of me on my wall. It absolutely fits in time. Thank you so much, Branko. If some of you have any question for Branko, you can put it down in questions and answers. Our next presenter is Mr. Dragan Obrenović. He is from the Committee of Serbian DNA Project, and he will, in his presentation, he will explain something more and concrete about this project, as well as of some basic issues about how they done it, and what were all of the reasons, and how it's gone in details, because probably many of us are not so familiar with all of that necessary issues have to be fulfilled for such kind of research. Dragan, please, it's your time. Thank you so much.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. My name is Dragan Obrenović. I'm also a member of the Association of Serbian Genealogists Poreklo, and also a member of one of its committees, Serbian DNA Project. And today I'm going to present you with one of the capital outcomes of our project. That's a book, Genetic Origins of Serbs of Old Herzegovina. Well, I know that this is IFLA Local History and Genealogy sections webinar, but I'm not sure how many of you are actually acquainted with genetic genealogy. So I planned to do some kind of very quick overview of genetics and its use in genealogy for about 10 minutes, and then I will proceed with the actual project we have here. So first, a short walkthrough. You probably know that in every our cell, we have so-called chromosomes. So every human cells, from our hair to our skin to whatever tissue we have in our body, contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. They're located inside the cell's nucleus, and they can be imagined like tiny packages containing this famous spiral of DNA. The first 22 pairs of chromosomes are called autosomes, and the last pair are so-called sex chromosomes, very important for genetic genealogy because they determine our sex, and we will see later how they can be used to track somebody's ancestry. Every woman carries 2 X chromosomes in their cells, while every man carries 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. Beside these 23 pairs of chromosomes, there is also a very important DNA packed outside of the nucleus. It's called mitochondrial or mitochondrial DNA, and it is inherited exclusively from our mothers. So it means that the mitochondrial DNA can be used to track pure female line up to like 100,000 years in the past. We'll see about that later. When we unwrap any of our chromosomes, we will actually get long chains of amino acids or letters, which actually compose our genome. These letters are actually acronyms for amino acids called adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. So basically, we can imagine our genome as long list of letters, A, T, G, and A, which actually determine our complete genealogy. Now, how we use these letters in genetic researches related to genealogy. If we compare any 2 men in the world, their DNA is similar up to maybe 99.9%. But some people have so-called mutations of SNPs. So on one particular location in our DNA, I can have letter A, while some other person like Branko can have letter G. So these small differences between individual genomes can be actually used to track ancestry. So why these changes occur? When male germ cells undergo the replications to produce spermatozoids, they go like for millions on divisions. It's kind of photocopying of paper now. So in this kind of photocopying of paper, copying machine of our body can sometimes mismatch one letter with the another. So instead of perfect copy of like 3 billion letters, in one of the papers or copies, we can have letter G instead of letter A. So these small errors in DNA replication are called single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNP. But why is it important? When first son gets a random error in its DNA, this SNP, in its Y DNA, it passes this to all further generation, to his son, to his grandson, to his grandson, and so on. So it becomes unique signature of particular specific male lineage. So because of this actual fact, we can use DNA to distinguish one male line from the other. There are also some other types of signatures in our DNA, particularly in Y DNA. These are so-called short tandem repeats. This is what you can see in this bottom part of this picture. So particular tandems like CTA, CTA, CTA repeats many times in our Y DNA. So for one male line, the count of these repeats may be 5. For the other male line, it can be 6, and so on. And by counting how many these tandems repeat in our DNA, we can also obtain some kind of genetic fingerprint of particular person and compare it with another person. Why this STR test is important? First of all, it is much more affordable, cheaper to produce. So basically, most of the DNA projects use these STR tests for determining so-called haplogroup of the tested person. And based on these small changes between human chromosomes, modern technologies allows us to actually compare thousands and tens of thousands of people around the world and reconstruct a timeline when different male lineages branched from each other and migrated throughout our continent. So by analyzing these Y chromosomes, both from modern people and from archaeological samples, scientists were able to reconstruct the paternal tree of humankind and to trace the roots of human migration all the way back to Africa, where we believe that first humanoids appeared in the past. So on this photo, you can see how haplogroups actually traveled around the world and populated continents from Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia, all the way up to Northern and Southern America. We actually mark these major haplogroups with letters from A to R. And every single male person who actually watched this video belonged to one of these haplogroups. Similarly, there are haplogroups for so-called mitochondrial DNA haplogroups for women, but for the genealogy, it's much more difficult to actually track women for several reasons. Mitochondrial DNA is very short, and the frequency of mutations in mitochondrial DNA is very small. So basically, when you find your relative, let's say the person which has only one difference in the mitochondrial DNA from you, she can live for like 10,000 years in the past. In case of men, one difference means typically about 2 to 3 generations, so maybe 70 to 90 years in the past. So it's much more convenient for tracking migrations. So what kind of DNA tests exist in the world? Whenever you mention DNA test to someone, the first thing somebody thinks of is so-called autosomal DNA or autosomal test. This kind of test actually is most common and least expensive. It's the test that reports on your ethnicity, and it's the test that gives you the list of other tested persons who share a common ancestor with you, both male or female, in the last, let's say, 4 to 5, maybe even 6 generations. So this test looks at your autosomes, which are first 22 pairs of your chromosomes, and it typically does not analyze X and Y chromosomes. The first test, Y DNA test, it's important because man's Y chromosome is nearly identical to his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and so on throughout the generation. So Y DNA line can be traced back hundreds and even thousands of years. And this kind of test is great for determining common origin of different families, surnames, and so on. In the past, this kind of test was extremely expensive. It was like $2,000, $3,000 for this kind of test. But today you can order like full genome sequencing of your DNA for about 200 euros. It's just today that these great discounts are in place for Black Friday. So if any of you is interested in sequencing a genome, it's perfect time in the year to order such test. And finally, on the right, we have this mitochondrial DNA. As you can see, similarly to Y DNA test, which you can use to track your pure paternal lineage. mtDNA tests can be used to track your pure maternal lineage. And both tests are used today. What these tests can give you, apart from obvious list of your relatives, like your cousins, first cousins, second cousins, and so on, these tests can actually reveal your geographical origins. For example, this is a map showing my geographical origins. This is a test I did for myself on family tree DNA. And as you can see, it gives like 93.2% probability that I live in Serbia. And at the time when I saw this map, I didn't tell FTDNA where I'm from, where do I live, who am I, and so on. As you can see, the test correctly put me on the Balkans, and even very specifically in the region of, let's Serbia, Montenegro, parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and so on. And this is actually where I live. These three maps there are the maps of different people who did autosomal tests from Serbia. One of those is me, and as you can see, there are very little difference between like Serbs, Bosnians, Croatians, and even Romanians, which is very interesting because interestingly, like 90% of Serbs have very, very, very similar this autosomal admixture to Romanians. As you can see, it's kind of like fluid population, which spans from Adriatic Sea up to Black Sea. But obviously, this pretty much identical mix of populations form different modern nation today. So part of these people are now Serbs, part of Bosnians, part of Romanians, and so on. So this is the kind of information that you can get from autosomal tests. But as we mentioned before, Poreklo typically use Y-DNA tests for our researches. We typically research paternal lines. Why? Because researching maternal lines is very difficult, because probably in many cultures in the world, women take a husband's surname upon marriage. So like my mother's surname is different than her mother's, then her mother's, and so on. So basically tracking, let's say, common origin between people with completely different surnames is extremely difficult. On the other side, while tracking paternal line, you can see very, very same pattern for the surname, for geographical origin of the people, and so on and so on. So now, when we first did a quick glimpse to the basics of genetic geology, let's go back to our project. We are proud to say that this was kind of citizen science project because it includes joint work of both scientific institutions like Faculty of Biology in Belgrade, which did DNA analysis, and the work of tens and hundreds and thousands of people who participated in this joint project. The project started in 2016, and as it was executed in several phases. The initial goal of the project was very modest, to actually test 500 candidates whose origin was from the old Herzegovina region. At the end of the project, we realized that we significantly surpassed this initial goal, that we tested 1,143 individuals, which is a really huge and representative sample. So why we chose old Herzegovina? When you actually investigate the history of Serbian state and modern Serbian nation, from primary historic resources, it is clear that the first Serbian state, and probably the place where first Slavic tribes or Serbian tribes settled, were exactly in this region. Particularly in the 19th, 18th, and 20th century, this region was a source of large number of migrations to other parts of Balkans and Serbia. So it is kind of cradle that we wanted to investigate using genetic genealogy as an additional tool. Important things that was actually enabler of this project was prior digitalization of ethnographic literature, because testing somebody's DNA is pretty much useless without cross-checking and matching the information you get with the ethnographic books, with the literature parish records and so on, because finding two persons that genetically match doesn't give you much information unless you double check with the literature. As I mentioned before, we did a close cooperation with the Faculty of Biology in Belgrade, and their lab was used for testing all the samples we collected on the terrain. During this project, we are also proud to include some archaeological research samples from Senica near Gatsko in 2018. And finally, final phase of the project, which lasted almost 2 years, and 16 authors were involved, was actually writing a study and publishing this book. So this is a short project roadmap. As I already said, digitalization of available ethnographic literature was a, let's say, foundation, cornerstone of this project, because without that part, it would be extremely difficult to write this book. Serbs are very lucky that at least two, like there are dozens of great scientists, conducted a very thorough research of all settlements, villages, and places in Serbia. These are our great scientists, Cvijić and Erdejanović. We'll mention them later. They left a huge heritage of ethnographic literature in paper, but digitalization of these books allowed our researchers to actually do full text computer searches in a matter of seconds, something that would, in like only 50 years before, took you weeks to go to the library, land the books, and then go to the pages, searching for a term or surname of place. Now it is possible in a matter of seconds. So digitalization of available ethnographic literature was literally an enabler of the project. Next thing was establishing a cooperation with a reputable scientific institution, which is Faculty of Biology. Step number 3 was selecting the actual scope of the region, what is actually extent of Old Herzegovina. Fourth, and the longest part, was actually going to the terrain and collecting DNA samples from people living there, interviewing them, sending samples to the lab. Fifth part was actually systematization of DNA results. These are those numbers or letters we received from sequencing our DNA, and putting them in a sophisticated database of the Serbian DNA project, which allows for searching and grouping people with similar results. Obviously, this part also includes cross-checking with earlier anthropographic researches and these books that we digitalized. And final part was actually writing a study. As I can say, the main driver of success in this digital library, which was launched at the beginning of 2017, Branko mentioned it in more details before. The aim of this sub-project was to collect all available genealogical literature in one place. The library contains not only books and magazines related to genealogy, but also a number of titles related to history of Serbia, ethnography, geography, linguistics, heraldry, personal biographies, chronicles of towns and villages, and so on. Every piece of information then contains useful material for genealogical research. What makes this library special is the fact that all titles are fully indexed and fully searchable. So as I already said, researcher can check a specific search term appears in like 7,000 digitalized books in a matter of seconds with a click of a button. This was pretty much unimaginable like 20 years ago. The next phase, or first phase of actual project, was actually selecting the region for the research. Old Herzegovina is one of the areas that were first inhabited by Serbs, as I already said, and it's also the area with the strongest migration currents to other parts of Balkans and Serbia. So basically, we continued the previous researches conducted by our famous scientists, Jevto Dedijer and Jovan Cvijić. You can see their photos here. And this map on the left shows the places or the Swedish excursion map when he did the first research in the last century. Second phase, which lasted good 5 years, was actually collecting DNA samples on the terrain. You can see here exact spots where we collected these samples. And in the upper corner, you can see the excavation of this archaeogenealogical sample from the great stone tomb in Crnica near Gatsko. And we can say that this sample of 1,143 results is highly, highly representative, more than enough for doing serious research, because we should not forget that every tested individual represents tens and sometimes even hundreds of other men with the same surname and so on. A very fortunate fact is that this is very specific to Serbs as Orthodox Christians, and that we have so-called Slava Day. This is a home patron saint. So basically, we found a strong correlation of surnames or families, clans, and tribes with this Slava days, this patron saint. So by finding people who share the same patron saint, you have like 80% of chance that these people have common origin, and typically DNA tests confirm that. Also, our sample includes not only DNA samples collected during the project specifically, but also samples from the people who self-tested in commercial labs like Family Tree DNA, YSEC, DNA Center Belgrade. So these joint results all came into the research of this project. In the phase 3, we consolidated results in our database. This is a screenshot of the database of the Serbian DNA projects. And these small, tiny numbers here are actually a number of repeats of this tandem. This STR markers is everyone's DNA. We are proud that our database now includes more than 7,000 tested individuals. We are very, very successful in this regard, and comparable only to some other nations which are very famous for being interested in genealogy, like Irish people, like Scottish people, United States, and so on. But for a small country like Serbia, we are very proud of the fact that we are nearing almost 8,000 people in our database. On the left, you can see a grouped person who are determined by DNA test to be genetically related to Mirilovici male lineage or brotherhood or tribe, however you want to call it. And interesting fact, it is in Cyrillic, but you may see this column 1, 2, 3, 4th column, that all these people share the same patron saint day or Slav, St. John the Baptist, which shows that this Orthodox Christian tradition is very strong indicator of common origins. In the phase 4, we connected our DNA results with the results in literature. So I'll give you one example. If you find one person who doesn't have any clue of its origins or ancestry, but you can find that is closely genetically related with other person who knows very well his genetic ancestry and share the same Slava day with this guy, you basically solve the puzzle of this first guy. So using this huge library of ethnographic literature, we were able to decipher the origins of many modern surnames that didn't have any preserved oral or written tradition of their origins, and connected with other well-known families, clans, and surnames on the area of Old Herzegovina. In several cases, genetic ties have been discovered between surnames or tribes, clans that didn't have any knowledge of common ancestry, like Piešivci and Tsutse tribes. But also in few cases, genetic genealogy actually dismantled or actually broken some of the oral traditions between tribes who believed that they are ancestors of the same guy, but the genetics show that it is completely false. So that's a beauty of this hobby, which is very addictive, let's say. Finally, in the phase 5, we wrote a study. It took 16 authors who analyzed these 1,143 DNA results, consulted almost 1,000 references, like books, publications, scientific papers, many internet resources, and so on. They also produced 56 original maps. We will show some of these maps later. At the end of the books, we have a searchable and sorted index with 2,700 different surnames and 3,272 towns and villages, which you can search and see results of this project. The book is huge. It has 1,228 pages and 3 kilograms. That's why I put this smiley here. It's really a capital product of our society. This is the excerpt of the book. This is one of the famous Serbian poet, Jovan Dučić, and we here show this Y-DNA haplogroup, I2L468, M436, M223. There is also a narrative about the history of this family, pinpoint on the map where this family is located. These are the photos from archaeogenetical excavation in Cernica. These are our list of references. As you can see, it's a huge list, both domestic and foreign. This is a registry of settlements, which can be used to track specific village or place. These are some of the maps we produced, and these are the areas where particular families or tribes inhabit, as you can see here. This is in Cyrillic, so it's probably difficult for you to read, but these are like places where most common families live in the area of Old Herzegovina. This is one particular, let's say, clan called Drobnjaci Novljani, with very interesting haplogroup I1, which we are still trying to decipher how they entered Balkan Peninsula, because this haplogroup is today most common in the very north of Europe. So many of our members are still arguing how these haplogroups came to the Balkans. This is Ozrinici tribe, and you can see that they are located in mostly about one area and slightly in some others. These are clan of Nikšić, very famous clan, and probably the clan which was best researched on our entire project due to huge enthusiasm of members of this clan, and so on, so on. So this is basically my part of the presentation, and we are now open for your question if you have them.
Dragan, thank you so much. Today we have two Dragan Obrenović, you just heard, and myself, Dragan Milošević. You can guess that the Dragan is common name among the Serbs. What can I say after this presentation? I can say that the book, as a result of the Serbian DNA project, is really heavy literature in the meaning of content as well as in the meaning of kilograms. 3 kilos and 1,000, almost 300 pages is really huge result. I was very carefully listen the both presenters, Branko as well as Dragan. Many of that facts I already knew because we knew each other. And now and all of us will have a chance to hear and to see our colleague Kristina from Bucharest and her presentation on the Serbian collection from Library of Romanian Academy of Science. She will speak about historical sources and all of collection they have and connected with Serbian minority in Romania. Kristina, please, I would like to hear. I'm so interested in what you will present to us.
Thank you, Dragan. It's a very great pleasure for me to speak about Romania and Serbia and about our common culture and history. And it's very important for us as a national library that we have gathered along our history all the documentary materials and documents and items belonging to minorities. And let me draw you into the atmosphere of the old Belgrade. As we see, you can see here a plan of Belgrade C3, Eastern view drawn by the school engineer Johann Martin Will. And it's a very good photo from 18th century. And we have here also a lithography of George Herring after James Baker Pine, featuring Belgrade, very nice Danube view from 1838. So what a nice town Belgrade was, and it still is. But I want to tell you a few things about this engraving. It is an engraving of a Danubian plan from the 18th century, signed down right by the engraver G. Pilosi and down left by the engineer who drew the plan, Hornstein engineer. It's about one of the most important border places between our countries, the Iron Gates on Danube. And we have here the Adakale Island, which submerged in 1970. And on the island, the plan of the citadel gave the name Caroline to the island in the old times, merged with the Serbian river bank by a bridge. So, and the engraving also features a battle between Austrians and Turks at Orshova Vecchio. So there are so many, as Mr. Obranovic mentioned before, there are good matches between the DNA of Serbian and Romanian families, and we also have a very long and good history, a common history, and many links between the Serbian and Romanian noble families, which dates back very, very, very early. And I have selected only the family tree from the Brankovic noble family in the 15th century, where we can see a lot of, we have here a Catarina Cantacuzina, and there are also many other Romanian names and members of the Romanian noble families, even since they were very interlinked. This is from a book from Sasha Yashin, the noble families, Serbian families in Banat in the 15th and 16th centuries. And we have here also another one. But I want to tell you more about the Obrenović family, which is a very important and influential family, also a royal family in the Serbian history. And I want to tell you for the start about a few things about Elena Maria Obrenović, born Katargiu, which she was the daughter of Boyar Constantin Katargiu, a great landowner and Moldavian separatist, and the Romanian noblewoman Smaranda Balș. Elena Maria married Miloš Obrenović, the son of Jevrem Obrenović, and their son Milan was born in 1854. But shortly after the birth of Milan in 1855, Maria and Miloš divorced. So Maria, anyhow, lived a very lavish lifestyle and aristocratic style. We have here a very interesting drawing by Vidal Vincent. It's quite well preserved, even though it doesn't look very good at the beginning. But we have here also another image of Maria Katargiu Obrenović, which is a very rare watercolor on porcelain. It was made on a special German material in Berlin, and it is, as we see, very well preserved. So Maria lived a lavish aristocratic life, and in the early 1860s, she became the mistress of the Romanian ruler Alexandru Ioan Cuza of Moldavia and Wallachia. And the two of them have two sons, Alexandru Ioan Cuza, nicknamed Sasha, and Dimitria. The boys were actually officially adopted by Cuza and his wife, Elena. But because of the intended reforms and the political plans, Cuza was forced to abdicate by the so-called monstrous coalition of conservatives and liberals. At 4 o'clock on the morning of February 22, 1866, a group of military conspirators broke into the palace and compelled the prince to sign his abdication. And on the following day, they conducted him safely across the frontier. And we may ask, what was the role of Maria Obrenović? We have here a photo, actually an illustration from Kepes Világ, a Hungarian publication. It's a print, a special print, which and the illustration renders in a dramatic but fictitious manner the moment when Alexandru Ioan Cuza was forced to abdicate. And according to the rumors of the time, he was caught together with Maria Obrenović and forced manu military to sign the abdication declaration in the night of February 11. So there were also rumors about the role of Maria Obrenović, about being a Russian spy, but nothing is known for sure. But as we know, she was not a very dedicated mother, and her son, speaking about her son. The Serbian-Romanian ties go further with Maria's son, Milan Obrenović, which on November 20, 1861, at the age of 7, lost his father as Miloš died fighting the Turks near Bucharest as a foreign mercenary in the Romanian army, meaning that at that date his mother Maria got a legal custody. But as she showed very little interest in her children from her first marriage, there was an agreement for young Milan to get legally adopted by his cousin Mihailo Obrenović. And Milan married Natalia Kiershko in Romanian, on 17 October 1875 at the St. Michael's Cathedral in Belgrade, Serbia. Natalia, who was 16 years old at the time of her marriage, was the daughter of the Bessarabian nobleman Petre Ivanovich Kiershko, who served as a colonel in Russian Imperial Army. And Natalia's mother, Pulcheria, was by birth the Princess Sturza. So this means that the couple were very close second cousins, because Milan's mother Elena and Natalia's father Petre was the children of two sisters. So this means that they that their marriage had to be specifically approved and receive an approval from the church. But this wasn't done anyhow. But these very close ties are very good illustrated by the fact that a great delegation from Romania, which included members of the Romanian noble families Moruzi and Catargiu, attended the wedding ceremony. And they had a son, Alexander, born in 1876. Their marriage had many ups and downs, with divorce, cancel of the divorce, and reinstatement of their marriage, with exile, and most important, very different political views. As the king pursued pro-Austrian foreign policy, the queen had a Slavophile attitude, and they were very, very different in this sense, and they quarreled a lot, and there was a lot of tension because of this fact. But without entering many historical details about, we know that Milan and Natalia's son Alexander became king at an early age. In 1889, King Milan unexpectedly abdicated and withdrew to private life, proclaiming Alexander King of Serbia under a regency. And his mother became his regent. But in 1893, King Alexander, aged 16, arbitrarily proclaimed himself of full age, dismissed the regents and their government, and took the royal authority into his hands. And in May, just to mention, in May 1894, King Alexander abolished King Milan's liberal constitution of 1888 and restored the conservative one of 1869. And just a brief mention, his attitude during the Greco-Turkish War, 1897, was one of strict neutrality. When King Alexander affianced himself with Dragan Mašin, a former court lady of Queen Natalia, in 1919, His parents rejected the future queen as improper. And after that, King Milan resigned as army commander and left Serbia for the rest of his life. But even the relationship between Natalia and Alexander was broken up because of this fact, and Queen Mother was a strong opponent of her son's marriage to Draga. Therefore, Natalia was banished from Serbia by her son. What we know from the hectic historical time, King Alexander and his wife Draga were killed in 1903 during a military coup. And this left Natalia the only member, the sole member of the Obrenović dynasty. And she donated the inheritance to the University of Belgrade and various churches and monasteries around Serbia. But getting back to Alexander and Draga's assassination, this was a very dramatic moment which inspired the theater writer E. Krauss to write a drama which was performed in many neighboring cities, in many theaters hall in cities neighboring Serbia. And we have here the theater, the bloody drama in Belgrade, or the assassination of King Alexander and Queen Draga. This is the true 4-act play, played on February 24th, 1907 in Turnul Severin. But and later in the same year, the same play, but this time having a 5-act play, having a 5-act, was played in Corabia in June 3rd, 1908. So, and also the same year, in August 3rd, in Turnul Severin, in the Central Garden, the bloody drama, again in 5 acts, was played in the Central Garden in Turnul Severin. So this story raised a very huge interest in the neighboring cities, and it was the shows were very well attended by the public. The ties between the Romanian-Serbian ties go further, as we have Queen Marioara, Princess Maria of Romania, known in Serbian as Maria Karađorđević, as Queen of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, and later Queen of Yugoslavia, as a wife of King Alexander, from which she was queen from 1922 until the assassination, his assassination in 1934. She was the mother of Peter II, the last reigning Yugoslav monarch. And we have here the royal family depicted in these photos from the Romanian Academy Library collection. We see here Queen Maria with King Peter and Princess Tomislav and Andrew attending the International Exhibition in Belgrade, and the Romanian stand, 1937. And here also Queen Marioara and Princess Tomislav, another image from the same exhibition. And here at the exit of the Romanian stand, we see King Peter with the princess and Queen Mother in the back plan. Here we have other images from the Romanian stand, and here we have porcelain from Turda manufactory and other public festivities attended by the royal family. But as I say, any item, any library item, there's a story. And here we have also an example from our ephemera collections, a Kundmachung, an announcement related to the exchange of war prisoners with Serbian. It's interesting. Every piece of this kind of librarian items, there's a story. But we have a lot of books in and serials publication in our collections, more than 300 actually. As we see here, even from 1847, we have this Glasnik, or this serial from 1871. And I have to mention here that we have the Serbian Academy of Sciences was one of the first learned societies we have exchange relationship with, and therefore we have some of their publication dating back from 1847. So very good and complete collections. We have here a calendar, 1863, with some images. The publication Dello, 1894, and another serial publication from 1910. But we also had very old prayer books in our collection, like the prayer book for Serbian saints from 1761, which has very many interesting illustrations. It's a very rare book and a good acquisition, and it's very well preserved. I just wanted to offer a short glimpse about our common histories, about some stories, and about the rich collections, Serbian collections and items we have. Because as a national library, which we are, and we celebrated this August 155 years since of existence, and we are very proud that our institutions gathered during that time so many documents and collections from minorities. So as Dragan said before, there is a good match not only between our DNA, but there is a very good history, a common history, and a very good example of coexistence. So thank you for having me here again. And of course, if you have questions, we shall answer later. Thank you.
Christina, thank you so much. For us, for us who are Serbians, it was easy to follow your presentation, full of Serbian history, especially 19th century, but and before. I saw so many interesting things you are carrying inside your library of Romanian Academy of Science, historical sources. As historian, I will name that as historical sources. As I said, I'm not surprised because our connections between Romanians and Serbians are lasted for a long time. I will just mention for the audience, for example, that our last queen was Maria Karađorđević, Romanian princess Maria, married with our King Alexander I, who is murdered, assassinated in Marseille in France in 1934. Okay, that's history. And in present moment, I will ask Jennifer, does she think that maybe it's a right moment for some questions? Because as I said, today my role is just as a moderator and small episode role with a small presentation, but it can wait if some questions somebody will like to ask in this moment. What do you think, Jennifer?
I think it's a great time for questions. So if anyone has any, please feel free. I know that Christina posted something about Branko's list of books, and if there's a way for him to make that public so that other people can see it, that would be great. I have a question about the digitized books that you all have on the platform. Are there copyright concerns or other legal concerns that you have to consider when digitizing those and putting those online?
Yes, we need to consider the author's rights, but in the most of the cases, we get the right from the authors to use their books. Their books usually are not written or published in the goal to earn some money, but to give some information about the families, about the villages to the public.
If I can add, lots of the books are from like 19th century, which are out of copyright.
Yes, with expired copyrights. I can show you how it works. Just a moment. Now you see the front page of the digital library Poreklo. For example, I'll type in Serbian transcription surname Tomić. Just a moment. And it will give these results. This is one book about the victims of Second World War. And here it is how it shows the results of this research. He marked in yellow every place where the Tomić surname is mentioned. And you can research it page by page, wherever it is mentioned. If you want to make some more detailed research, you can add some another term, keyword. For example, let's place a name of the city of Smederevo.
Yeah, it means to find the books where mention both Tomić and Smederevo.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
There is also an option beside and also or. In this case, we will search keywords Tomic and Smederevo, and it gives us these several books. This is one of the Chronicles of the Villages collection. And the software finds here the surname Tomic and Smederevo as municipality. And all the this combination in all the mentions of the book. You can also research terms or keywords that in some cases variate in their transcriptions. For example, in Serbian, surname Mihailovic sometimes is written like with a J and sometimes without it. In many cases, the same person was recorded in both variations. To find the both of them, you use this option or in Serbian ili. And it will find all the books where it is find both. We see it with J. But not without it. Just a moment. It gave the searched result, but here, for example, you have the both. Mihailovic with J and Mihailovic without J. And that is how it functionates.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question. Did you all design this interface, or is it a product that you all purchased to create your digital library?
It is our transcription of the free software. It's called Rescarta. It's available on the internet for free. I think our version has just some small additions that the original version doesn't have. And we use here older version because it has some tools that are made in better way than in the new one.
Yeah, so basically it's open source software with the user interface localized from English to Serbian.
It looks really good.
And several of the libraries in Serbia also use it, public libraries, like Library of Belgrade.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Also, because we use both scripts, Cyrillic and Latin, it's possible to research in one or another or in the both.
Are there any other questions for now? Oh, here's another one here from Sherry. What books would you recommend to begin a Serbian collection in a library?
For some beginners, those are the books from the collection Municipalities and Origins of the Population. That is the edition of Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts. It started on the end of the 19th century, and it last published books, as I know, were published in the second half of the last century. There is more about 70 books, as I know. And the next one is are the Chronicles of the Villages. That's also one of the projects of the Serbian Academy. I think there is more than 1,000 books in that collections. They are of various quality because they were written by different kind of experts, let's say.
Mr. Takashi asked how we created full text search index, and I can answer. All the scanned books are OCR, it's optical character recognition, with Serbian dictionary, manually checked and then saved to the library. So we have like scanned image with full text search in the background.
Yes, and currently it recognizes Serbian in Cyrillic and Latin and English, but there is also possibility to make it researchable in other languages with what will be very useful for us, because there is a lot of literature in, for example, Germany, or on the languages of our neighbor states, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Macedonia. It would be great if it would be researchable on their scripts.
I can add the advantage of Serbian languages that reform done in 19th century was something like this, shortly explained. We are writing as we are speaking, and we are reading as it was written, which means my name, as you can see, it's Dragan Milošević. No double letters, no invisible whatever. Just what you see, you are reading. And what you are reading, you can put down on paper or computer in our new cases, I mean, new age. And we are using parallel our Serbian Cyrillic letters as well as Latin letters. Maybe that's advantage, a little bit hard for foreigners, easy to understand because, for example, English, French, doesn't matter, German people can easy learn Serbian because of Latin letters. Cyrillic is a little bit difficult for them, but in one hand it's easier, in the other hand maybe can be a problem. But this research from any kind of platform, on computer-based platform, it's good because of this advantage using both letters, Latin and Cyrillic.
Yeah, basically all the distinctive sounds you can produce with your mouth have only one letter to write them. You know, no double or three letters for the same sound you can produce.
Yeah, exactly like that, and that I can see this as advantage. Okay, probably now I can see in a chat that. No, Takashi just said thank you. Okay, that is that. Okay, we still have time, and probably now the stage is mine. And I will try to launch my presentation. If something will go wrong, I know that I can rely on Jennifer, because she is my backup for today, like a good ghost from lamp. But okay, I will try it first to launch this presentation. I hope now that you can see what I can see on my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, yes, okay. How it comes that I will say something more than mediation today in this webinar, this session. Well, as you can see, the title is, do you really know what you think you know? While we are making plans for realization of this webinar, I mean, everything started in our section sessions during this year, or maybe even at the end of 2021. And we got the idea that some good topic could be launched here from Serbia. And later I met Branko and Dragan, as well as president of Poreklo Association, Mr. Jovica Krtinić, who is as well as director of one of Belgrade libraries. And during some our talks and one final meeting, three of them actually got idea that probably interesting for this seminar will be to me to present my DNA results. And they took a sample of my DNA. I was waiting, I think, something like 2 weeks. Of course, it was exciting to wait and to hear and maybe to learn who am I, what are my origins, and what happened. I mean, this happened. You now you can see my certificate. It's in Serbian language, in Serbian Cyrillic letters, and only the table, 25 markers done on my DNA. It's in Latin letters, as well as you can recognize this my main haplogroup. Main haplogroup in my case, is I2, Y or Y3102. What does it mean? Shortly, it means that I am genuine European, and the other part in more details, my more detailed haplogroup is I2 PH908. What does it mean? That means that I'm original Serbian, which means that I wasn't surprised. Maybe for this small presentation will be more intrigued that I was surprised with my origin, but in this case, I was not. All the stories I knew from my family talks, doesn't matter mother or father side, just perfectly match with this DNA, my DNA results. I belongs to that Carpathian, South Slavic or Dinaric type of haplogroup, mostly prevalence in Old Herzegovina region. In Old Herzegovina region, as Dragan said in his presentation, prevalence exceeds 40% of Serbian population is the same with the same haplogroup like myself. And that means that I wasn't surprised, and this is that you probably already saw a map like this in previous presentations. As you can see, that haplogroup I2 PH908, Serbian population in Southeast Europe, and as I said, more than 40% of Old Herzegovina. I will now point it with the cursor. Old Herzegovina is the most red on the screen. It's that haplogroup. As you can see, Old Herzegovina as a historical region, as I said, today belongs to several countries, mainly Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, but also, as you can see, this haplogroup is spreading around former Yugoslavia and today's Croatia and, of course, Serbia, with all of parts. Also, you can see that it's going a little bit in a north-northeast way near city of Timisoara in Romania, or in Serbian language, we are called that city Temișvar, but originally Timisoara in Romania. That is DNA. And me, as a historian, as well as librarian from National Library of Serbia, I have to mention in this moment this book. You can see the Serbian and French version, and I have to mention Jovan Cvijić, who was Serbian geographer and ethnologist, as well as president of Serbian Royal Academy of Science and rector of University of Belgrade. His research belongs, of course, to the classic methods, all type of methods, which means archaeology, history, ethnology, and that we are calling as old-fashioned way, but it was a normal way of research in second part of 19th century. His book originally was written in French language and translated later in Serbian. You can see these books in Serbian, as I said, and French, and it's last edition of his books done by National Library of Serbia. On my right-hand side, you can see it as well. These two books are just behind me. Jovan Cvijić done a lot. He was a lot speaking about mentality, about psychological and all the other aspects of research in Southeast Europe, and especially his idea is that dinaric type of man today more present in science as Carpathian, South Slavic type of people. Completely, as you can see, I belong to that group, and I'm highlighting that was not a surprise for me, because, well, all of that story circulated in my family, as well, father and mother are originated from that region of Old Herzegovina. Maybe, as I said, it will be more interesting that I was surprised and to share with you that, but unfortunately, or good for me, I was not surprised. If I can make a joke, finally, I know who am I. Well, that I want to share with you. We still have more time, and I will just use a few minutes more. When I said I know who am I and that who I am, I wanted to say in this moment we are approaching to the end of this year, 2022. In front of us, I will just say in chronological order. In front of us are a lot of holidays. Tomorrow is a national holiday in Japan, and my best wishes for my friend Professor Takashi and his family. The day after tomorrow coming Thanksgiving Day, and all the best for Thanksgiving to all of my colleagues in the United States of America. After that, chronologically, the Christmas is coming. Merry Christmas to all of you, and of course, for all the people, I in this moment like to wish the best in the next following 2023. My great hope that peace and sense will be on stage and bring us prosperity in 2023. In this moment, I just have in mind what I heard 2 days ago at the opening ceremony of the Football World Champion Cup in Qatar. I was really fascinated with the ceremony, and I heard something which belongs to a real nice way of thinking. That's the philosophy of Arabic people. There was said that our differences have to be a motivation to connect us, that our common things have to put us together, and Arabic philosophy that we are one tribe spread around the globe to do, to live, and to love, and to be together. As I know, I probably think also you know that humanity and kindness is the only thing which is reaches and become bigger if you are spreading. Like the Beatles song, "Let It Be." I hope that will be like that, and I am wishing to all of you happy and prosperity and a happy 2023 and all good for all of you, for all of us. In this moment, upon me, it's just to say thank you for all of the speakers, and it was my great pleasure to be a participant in this session with this my episode role and small mediation. Now I will ask Jennifer to probably close this session and to thank her as she was my backup and didn't need, but she was ready.
Yeah. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you so much, speakers, for a wonderful presentation. I will be sending out a link in the coming days that will have a link to the presentation. So if you want to share that around for those who could not attend today, that would be great. And I'll also have a link for if you have additional questions for any of our speakers. Thanks so much. Does anybody have anything else to say before we leave? Okay. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.